Listen, I'm a Disney guy. I enjoy Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, the cruises, but Disney, not Walt Disney, Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, get your stuff together. Chase Lee Hockey here with the Blue Futon, reviewing season 1 of Behind the Attractions. So, like I said, I sucker for Disney because it makes families happy. It makes kids happy. But right now, what we are in today's day and age is the pandering stone. South Park did it correctly, where they're just pandering to the wrong crowd and they are literally dropping their stock. So that's why I decided to watch Behind the Attraction, because I want to know what Walt Disney was thinking. What was his point of view versus where we are at today? And there's a vast freaking difference. Walt Disney was about, you know what? Something for everyone, my vision. And now it's more of like, what's your person's vision? Because we don't want to get canceled. What's your person's vision so you don't want to get canceled? And I'll get Snow White as a conclusion. No one knows what's happening. No one knows. But anyway, that's about Disney as a whole. This is about the show. Behind the Attractions does Jungle Cruise, Haunted Mansion, Star Wars tours, Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, the castles, Disneyland Hotel, Space Mountain, It's a Small World, Trains, Trams, and Monorails, and the Hall of Presidents. So each episode goes in those different 10 rides, attractions, or spectacles, not just in the U.S. 2 parks, but also Tokyo, Shanghai, Paris, and Hong Kong. So we look at that. And I thought the most interesting episode, if I had to choose one, was the castles. The reason I thought that was the most interesting is to look at each country's want for what they want for a castle. For example, Japan, their Tokyo is like, no, we already can have a bunch of Japanese culture around. We want it to kind of be Americanized in this Disneyland, which makes perfect sense because when I go to like Koreatown, Chinatown, I kind of want to know what it's like, what kind of food is there, etc., etc. However, not like that in China. China's like, no, we want different. We want it to be like us. And I think Walt Disney did, or not Walt Disney, I think Disney as a whole did they screwed themselves over with China because they don't even own like more than 50% of the company of what's happening there. So that's why, people like stay away from the China ones because technically Disney doesn't have the rights like China does. So let's do it there. So just we'll do a quick recap of each single one. Jungle Cruise, I rode the ride once. It was fine. It is outdated. I bet you back in the day when Walt Disney decided to do this and released it, it was pretty freaking awesome for what they wanted to do. Sorry about that. That just sounded really awkward. First is Jungle Cruise. I thought that was an interesting one of how it was made, of how the trenches he made, how it was a crapshoot if it was going to work. It didn't even open before the park. The park opened, Jungle Cruise wasn't even done. And this one I would say had a lot of hiccups to it of what people wanted from it, of how some people had a 7-minute ride, some people had a 2-minute ride, some people had a 5-minute ride. And I thought that was very interesting at how they decided to add the jokes into it. Like I said, I only rode this once. I've only been to Disney World. Okay, I've been to Disney World 3 times. One in 1997. And then since I'm in Florida now, I went like back to back to a year. So it's been a while. But Jungle Cruise, I've only rode once. I don't know why we didn't ride in 97 because I'm guessing my mom and dad didn't want those like boring rides. You want to put it that way. But it was a fine little ride. Haunted Mansion. Again, a ride I think I've only rode once recently. And it broke down while I was on the ride. I thought it was pretty funny. Like, it was the scene where you see down below with the, the dinner table scene, and it just stopped. I guess because something happened to the ride. And I was like, oh, I guess I get to watch all the ghosts just going back and forth, back and forth. And I thought that was very interesting to watch this one, how this was made and why they wanted to do it. And also, Haunted Mansion had a lot of delays of getting it off the ground. And unfortunately, Walt Disney never saw that one come to life. Then we have Star Wars tours. Of course, Walt Disney didn't have anything come to life. I'll say one thing as a person, I'm not a Star Wars person whatsoever yet. They're fine, but I'm not like, oh my God, Star Wars. But I'll say the actual environment of the rides aren't bad. The one where you're doing the Millennium Falcon, I thought that was kind of weak. I thought it was what the really good one was, where you're going to the 5 different parks and you're finally on the ride and you're like seeing all the different interactions. I thought that one was a pretty solid ride, but we did wait over 2 hours because that ride breaks down a lot. Apparently, they break down a lot is because rides used to be made by Imagineers. This new Star Wars ones are by engineers. You see what I did there? And I can kind of agree with that. Or could kind of, as working with engineers, I can see how it could mess up. Best ride, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Now, I know for a fact the one in California now is Guardian of the Galaxy. That could be kind of a for me because I do think Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is a fantastic ride. I did ride that in 97 and recently, and my mom's like, recently, it won't be too bad. It was a lot. She doesn't like rides like that. I thought that was pretty fun. But that is the most fun that I could have on a ride at Disney World, except that the roller coaster with Aerosmith. But Twilight Zone was fun. The castles, like I already talked about, I thought that was the best episode to get the most information about what each country wants and how the castles were made. I thought that was fascinating. How California, you're peons compared to Florida. Let's put it that way. Peons with the size of the castles. California, y'all weak. Y'all weak as shit. Sorry. Disney. Anyway, the Disneyland Hotel. Of course, this is just about, Disney, which is fascinating how there used to be dentists. There used to be pharmacists. There used to be, daycares and stuff like that at the Disneyland Resort. And the whole point of Walt Disney wanting to do this, he wanted to literally be part of the park. So I thought that was a fun episode to be like, I thought it was going to be boring, but I was like, oh, that's actually pretty interesting. Space Mountain. I remember maybe riding this twice. I think I rode in 97, but this is a fun one. It's a very iconic, roller coaster in the dark. It's fun. It's quick. It's to the point. I know that one, they're kind of tying it to Tron now, which I will say one thing, the Tron in Shanghai does look pretty sweet. It really does. And I do need to ride the new Tron that is at Disney World. I did ride Guardian of the Galaxies. That was a pretty fun one. All right, It's a Small World. The ride that some people absolutely hate. I rode it again recently, and you do get stuck, and you do get the song over and over and over, which I do like the history of this one being at the New York World Expo and trying to get funds. So that's how they decided to do it. So I thought that was really interesting to get that information. Trains, trams, and monorails. This is probably, I would say, the weakest one. It's like, trains, trams, monorails, whatever. But the idea of doing it in the park was revolutionary. That's what I'm saying. Walt Disney was a revolutionary person. And it's hard to say if anyone else will be as revolutionary as him. The reason I say that is, look where we're at today. We're not revolutionized. We are remake. And you're just like, pandering. But I'll say in 97, we did stay in the hotel where the monorail went through. That's what I do remember. That brought up some memories and some tears. And then Hall of Presidents. I don't think I've ever been in the Hall of Presidents, even recently. So I do need to check it out. I heard they did President Trump dirty, which that makes sense. They would do that. But anyway, this is another one where the New York World Expo really helped make these animatronics, and Abe Lincoln was the first one because Walt Disney loved his Abe Lincoln. So that is behind the attractions. I really doubt there is going to be a, what am I trying to say, a Rotten Tomato score. I know when I was on the Disney cruise recently, that was one of the things they show in the rooms behind the attractions, which I do need to go on another Disney cruise soon. That is the Disney cruises are magical. But I heard the Wish and the Treasure, the Outer Bank of trying to do the running track is not good whatsoever. Anyway, behind the attractions does have a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 93% for the critic or for audience fear and the 50 no critic consensus. So I really didn't give my score because I didn't think there would be a score. So I would give the score probably a 4 out of 5 blue futons, which equals the 80%. All right, I did it backwards. So now 75, 80, 93. Chase Scott here with the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know things Futontopia. You Futons think about a great day. Now I don't care about you say tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. I love you. Go for your view. That was gross. But yeah, like I said, I got Disney Pops. Most of my Pops now, I got rid of all my Pops. And the only Pops I now own are movie related and Disney related. and Transformers. Those are the three. But everything else, I got rid of like all the Guardians. I got rid of all the Marvels. I got rid of everything else. Video game ones, it's now movies and or Disney. But if I have to sell the last things, the Pops are the first to go.